evening. My name is Kelly Carroll, and I am the old chair of the CPARB Bennington Community Policing Advisory Review Board meeting. Tonight is Thursday, July 18th. It is 6:04 p.m. We are in the third floor room at the firehouse located at 130 River Street in Bennington. As I said, my name is Kelly Carroll. I'm going to ask the rest of the board members to introduce themselves.
Scott Richmond.
Jeff Vickers.
Kate Cost. Vicki Lamprin.
Okay. We also have Lee with CAT TV with us today and Jonas Spivak helping us with the communication. And our guests this evening are Chief Doucette and Communications Coordinator Kim Krosick. I'm sorry, it's been one of those days. So anyway, we'll start with the town vision statement.
Okay. Town vision statement. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the June meeting minutes. And so for purpose of discussion, can I get a motion to accept and second?
I make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay. Next is the approval of the previous meetings minutes. So they were distributed prior to for discussion. So can I get a motion to accept?
Make a motion we accept.
Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Okay, so carried. Okay. Next on the agenda is board reorganization. So the first thing that we will do is take nominations for vice chair. The vice chair, after elected, will take nominations for chair, and then the chair, after elected, will take nominations for secretary, and then we will go into public comment. So can I get, are there any nominations for vice chair?
I'll nominate Kate.
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Kate, will you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay. All those in favor of Kate for vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Kate?
Okay, I'd like to take nominations for the chair.
I nominate Kelly Carroll.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
I'll
opposed?
abstain. I'm just abstaining.
Do you accept?
I accept.
Great.
All right. Next is the office of secretary. Are there any nominations for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Vicki.
I'll second that as well.
I'll third it.
Vicki, will you accept?
I do.
Okay. All those in favor for Vicki for secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Congratulations to the new officers for the next fiscal year. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody that wants to comment? We didn't have anybody sign up. So, okay. All right. So next on the agenda is the Bennington Police Department update with Chief Doucette. So he's going to give us a brief update, and then we're going to listen to Kim Krosick talk with us about the communication center.
Well, good evening, everybody. Everybody up on the board, congratulations on your new assignments, and I appreciate your support, and the membership at the police department and this community appreciates all of you supporting the community and the Bennington Police Department. So thank you for everyone in the audience and at home. Here we are. Whew, summer is flying by. We're already in the middle of July. There's so many things that have been happening so far this summer, and with lots more to come. But I just want to give you a couple updates tonight. Kimberly Krosick from our communications center is here. She's going to talk to you a little bit about communications, so I don't want to steal any of her thunder. I will remain here and support her while she's speaking. But I want to just share with you a couple things. Update on Stark. Where is Stark? People are asking, where'd Stark go? Stark is currently at the Vermont Police Academy. This is week 2 for him, and Officer McCauley, because we all know that we're really training Officer McCauley along with Stark, and they're doing extremely well. Officer McCauley and Stark are one of 4 K-9 teams that are being trained under the new regime at the Vermont Police Academy, and we understand that he's doing extremely well. He's still young, but he's doing well. I was super excited. I felt like a grandfather last week. Stark and Jim came back from the academy. I knew that they were in the building. I was in my office and I said, "Where's my little buddy Stark? Stark, come see me." And he came booking into my office, rounded the corner, and literally jumped up into my lap, which made me happy, because even my wife's not that happy to see me, but Stark is. So I was very happy about that. And Stark is at the academy this week. It's a 10-week program. So tomorrow will be the end of week 2, and then Stark, with a lot of hard work, will graduate, and then he'll be back at the academy for an additional 5 weeks, more towards the end of the year. So it's a lot of training for a little guy and a new handler, and we're excited that that's happening. So if you haven't seen Stark and you haven't seen the K-9 car, it's because they're in Pittsburgh. One of the other great things that just happened with us is every year we do our new experience camp, and this year was a hoot just like all the other years. We did a lot of different things this year with our Phase 2 kids. Kimberly was involved, Jonah was involved, a lot of my staff were involved. The Phase 2 kids got a whole new experience. We left on a Sunday this year instead of a Monday. We went up the East Coast, up into Maine, stopped at the Nubble Lighthouse. The kids didn't even know that existed, and I told them the importance of the Nubble Lighthouse on a personal level, and at a professional level. We did a lot of tide pool stuff, and it was absolutely beautiful there. It really was. And then we traveled up to the Forks, Maine, where we spent the night. And we took the kids on the Kennebec River, whitewater rafting with class 3 and 4 rapids, and it was exciting. We went down to New Hampshire Marine Patrol the following day. The kids learned what it was like to be a law enforcement officer out on the water, which isn't anything that we do around here. And they got to be out on the patrol boats. It was outstanding. So, and then we came back and we spent some time over at Somerset Reservoir. Jonah did some instruction on canoeing and kayaking and fishing, and it was the fish were on, and the kids were spot on also. They all caught fish. There wasn't any kids that didn't catch fish. It was amazing. We spent some time at Hale Mountain Fish and Game Club doing firearm safety and teaching the kids safety about firearms and allowing them to fire weapons. And then, of course, we ended our week with Jonah taking the kids caving, and they got dirty. It was outstanding. And the Phase 1 kids had a great time too. That group was led by Sergeant Stemp and others. They spent time at Bromley. They spent time at Adirondack Extreme. They too were at Hale Mountain. They were down at Crabapple whitewater rafting, and they were over at Southwest Tech. They all had a great time. I've gotten emails from parents. So it's just a great thing. And I know every time we talk about New Experience Camp, we are asked, well, could you do it for 2 weeks next summer? And the answer on that is no. Right from the get-go, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to put it together. And I just have an amazing staff that is a tremendous help. Lieutenant Grandy's not here tonight, but he's out on Main Street for the Thursday Night Live events and the car show. It's just, it's great to have a staff that can put all of this together and make things happen. So it was just a couple of quick things, because I want to give my time to Kimberly tonight. And so unless anybody has any questions about New Experience Camp or Stark, Does anybody have any questions?
I just have one question. How many
Okay.
kids did you have participate this year?
This year, we had 21, I think, 21 kids participate in New Experience Camp, one of our smaller camps that we've ever done. We had a lot of conflict with other camps and things like that, but all the kids that participated, it's sad on Friday afternoon when you sit here and you go over everything with the kids. What was your favorite part? What would you change? And things like that. A lot of the kids don't want to change anything. They just want to add really cool stuff. And Jonah was here for all of that as well. And Jonah actually had some ideas too. So again, it's just something that's very productive, and it really helps the relationship with youth in our community and the police department. And that's the most exciting part, I think.
I think it's a program that keeps getting better every year. So kudos to you and all the officers and everyone else that participated. And I'm sure they love those caves, Jonah.
Jonah loves the caves too. And
Yeah, but that's half the fun. When you have somebody that's that, excited and passionate about things, the kids pick up on it. So
Yeah.
so kudos to all of you on that.
when we talked about going caving, and the kids were like, "Oh, we're going to Howe Caverns? Oh no, you're going caving." And Jonah told them all, "You're going to get dirty," because of course it encompasses pre-camp meetings where you can talk to the parents and you can talk to the kids and stuff like that. So I thought that was fantastic. So yes, John.
It just made me think, I guess, to me, this seems kind of like a community outreach kind of thing. And then I know you guys do other community outreach type things. Do you have budget money to put towards community outreach and doing events and things with the community, or how does that work with the police department generally and with this camp? Do you have that covered?
Yeah, so the select board's really good about that. The select board authorizes, or actually, when the community comes out and votes and they approve our budget, they really they're really the ones that support that. So I put in $1,000 each year to go towards New Experience Camp.
Okay.
And that helps us keep the camp price down a little bit.
Yeah.
This year was fantastic with our fundraiser for Stark. So we really didn't push the community too hard on additional fundraising for New Experience Camp this year. But we did far more things than we have in the past with our New Experience Camp.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. And next year we're going to expand even more.
Yeah.
And so it's a great question, but yeah, it's $1,000. Okay. We receive $1,000
And then
towards that.
For other events, and to me, it seems like if one of the, just with CPARB in general is improving relations or communication, I guess, between the police and the community, it might be a good area to have funding for, so that you're able to do those things, and just that it's covered, it would be good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for asking. Any other questions before I bring Kim up?
Well, you've participated in a lot of community events recently.
We have.
Yeah, I mean, you have. Juneteenth, the Pride Parade, the backpack stuff's coming up, and so there's a lot, the Copsicle and...
Yeah, Copsicle's been busier than ever. Kimberly's also the president. We won't get into that. Kimberly's the president of our police association. Copsicle has been far more busy than we ever have been. A lot of requests. In fact, we were up with the seniors for their picnic this week. Yesterday was Wednesday, yeah. We were up there yesterday, and they love Bomb Pops just as much as anybody else. We did a little something different for them. We actually got ice cream bars. It was Kim's idea. It was a great idea. And we offered the sugar-free version to the seniors as well. And we handed out a lot of Pops yesterday. I got to get up and speak to all the seniors and got to participate and draw in their raffle tickets and stuff like that. So some people liked me and some people didn't win. But the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, we are involved. I don't... I love the seniors because I think that they're very supportive of law enforcement. They grew up at a different time when respect was a two-way street. So we do love the seniors. We go to the senior center. We talk to the seniors a couple times a year, but going to their picnic yesterday was a lot of fun. And the potato salad was amazing. And so, you know, Cam said he wasn't going unless he got to eat. So, but we went up there. We had a great time. We had a communication specialist up there. Susan was with us, and Jason from BCI was with us also. Juneteenth was a great event. The Pride event was fantastic. Also, we were out. Pride event was hot. But the Pride event was absolutely amazing. A lot of support there. It goes both ways. You know, we are a welcoming community, and we support folks, and they were very thankful to have us there. A lot of positive feedback from people that were there, and a lot of fun interactions. And so, yeah, I mean, we're out there, we're involved, and we look forward to things like that. You know, it's no different. We mentioned it already. You know, Lieutenant Grandy is out on Thursday Night Live at the car show, and I know this is the night that we would normally have Midnight Madness. There was a lot of confusion. Is there Midnight Madness? Is there not Midnight Madness? There was, but yeah, there's a lot of great things happen in this community, and we're glad to be part of it. So, all right, Kim. So, coming up to the podium here is Kimberly Krozik. She is a communication specialist assigned to the day shift. Lately, with some short staffing issues, she's been assigned to the day shift, but she works evenings and midnights all the way around. But we're correcting that, and Kim's going to talk about how we're correcting that, and she's very happy about it. So I'm going to stay and support her, and when Kimberly's done, I'll let you guys do your business, and I'm going to head out to Main Street, just so you know why I disappeared. Okay?
Hi, I'm Kimberly Krozik. I am a communications specialist with the Bennington Police Department, also known as a dispatcher, but we've changed the name. I've been with the department for 13 years total. And what do? We do a lot. We dispatch for the Bennington Police Departments. We are also dispatching fire departments, so Bennington Village, Bennington Rural, North Bennington, Pownell and Pownell Valley. Rescue squads, we dispatch for Bennington Rescue, Pownell Rescue, and we do mutual aid ambulances. So we assist with Cambridge and Hoosick Falls and other areas that need our assistance. Sometimes Williamstown, depends on what's going on. We are very busy. Not only are we dispatching for all of those agencies from time to time, we get walk-ins, mainly on the day shift. Lots of walk-ins. We are not a PSAP, but we do have 911 lines that get brought down to us, and then we have to decipher from there whether or not we are sending rescue, police, fire, all of the above, what the situation is there. We're not just sitting down and doing nothing. We are doing a lot. We are doing audits. We are entering a lot of information. So anytime someone's reported as missing, or if they have an arrest warrant, we're entering that information into the system. We do conditions checks. We are doing a whole lot of stuff inside the department. So, you know, the officers are asking us for stuff. Rescue is asking us for stuff. We're doing a lot. It's very hard to explain if you're an outside. So I do my best to try to explain what we do, but it's very difficult to explain it. So when people call in, we need the basic information: who, what, when, where. Location is very, very important. So a lot of the times people think that we're being very, rude or just dismissive. That's not the case at all. We're extremely busy, and we just need to get the information as quickly as possible so we can get the proper communications to you, so we can get rescue to you, so we can get the police department to you, so we can contact UCS if that's the case and send them. So If we're short with you, it's because we're incredibly busy and we're just trying to get the information as quickly as possible to get you the help that you need as quickly as possible. On a positive note, we are currently up to full staff. We are currently training a full-time dispatcher or communication specialist right now. She came to us from Rensselaer County, so they did things a little bit differently there, but she's saying that she likes the way that we do things and she's picking up very quickly, so she's a good asset to the departments. And then once we are all up and trained with full-time, we'll then continue to seek part-time help to make sure that we are running smoothly. Let's see, what else? We have a new phone system. We are trying our very best to figure that out. It's a little bit different, so the transferring of calls is a little bit difficult, but we're learning. What else? So Jonah helped me bring up this map, and if I'm smart enough. Yes, please. I don't like, okay, I'm not an Apple person, sorry. So one of the main tools that I'm using while I'm dispatching, so not only do I have my CAT system up, which is our Valcor system in the open Fox that we have, which we use for all our NCIC entries and all that stuff, and running licenses and all that. I have this Vermont E911 viewer up. This is helpful for me to be able to figure out locations. So if someone calls and they say that they're at a certain location, I'm not quite sure where it is, I'm typing in that address and searching so that I know where it is, and then if the officers or rescue or anybody has questions to the whereabouts where it is, I can be like, okay, you need to go here, so I can search an address. So just do 118 South Street, which is the police department. So it brings up here, and then you click on that, and then it brings up where the police department, sorry, brings up where the police department is. So if I zoom in, sorry, it's loading, I can see that the police department is on South Street, corner of South Street and Union Street. And from there, I can also figure out, there's different layers, who the rescue squad agency would be, who the fire department would be, to make sure that we're sending the right agency to you. So I know that within this red square here, if you go, oh, hold on, sorry. Okay, you went way too far. We're now in Pownell. Well, if you can see here on this map, you can see that we're in Pownell. So I can figure out where the line is, for the town line is. So I can tell you which agency that we would be sending if you needed rescue. So we'd obviously be sending Pownell to you. But it shows you the fire departments. It can show you, you can click on different options so you can see where the trails are. So when sometimes people get lost in the trails, we can look and we can see, kind of have a better idea of where the trail starts, where it ends, and where it is, and go from there. There's fire hydrants, you can look at those to see where they are, if anybody had questions about that. So this tool is very, very important, very, very vital to me when I'm dispatching. I use it constantly, all the time, honestly.
So, Kim, I just wanted to, I don't mean to interrupt, but just a couple of questions and comments. When we went through the last series of training for the board members, there had been some questions about sometimes people call 911 and the repetitiveness of, having to give that information, because I don't think, and I'll probably mess this up, so correct me, but, when you call 911, it's not a local call. It goes somewhere up in northern Vermont, and then it goes someplace else in central Vermont, and then it gets to you. And there was one map that you had shown us that was really visual. It made such an impression with me. And I think it was when we were talking about maybe Shasberry Hollow calls, or where, like if somebody calls in and they're not sure of the road and where to call, and who you can actually go in and say, oh no, it's Cambridge, or it's this rescue squad or that.
Yeah, so this is what this map is. So yes, correct. So if you call 911, you are going to Westminster, Williston, there's one other I can't think of right now, those PSAPs. And then from there, they can figure out from where you're calling who the agency is, and then they transfer the call down. They'll stay on the line with the person, we'll call it, we'll answer, and then they'll tell us, the gist of what's going on, and then we can speak further to the complainant. So, let me try to slowly back out of this. So like if you see here, I'll try to just right here. Sorry, I'm not very good with these maps. Anyway, so if you see here, actually you can see the trails here. You can see that Bennington Police Department is the agency for police if you needed anything, and if there was something going on at where the old SVC campus used to be. And then if you needed the fire department, it would be Bennington Rural, and then Bennington Rescue would be the EMS agency that would respond for SVC, the old SVC. And then you can see all of the trails in here, like all the lines, all these green dots, those are all the trails throughout behind the campus there.
Places to get lost.
There's a lot of places to get lost. But yeah, so a lot of people will say that they are on, so like North Bennington calls. A lot of the times people, their mailing address shows North Bennington, but their house is physically in Shasberry. So if they needed police, they would need to contact the Vermont State Police or the Sheriff's Department if they had a deputy on. So it's very confusing to people where their mailing address is different than their physical address. We go by their physical address, not their mailing address. And so people just need to understand that. But that's why I use this map all the time, so I can tell and be like, okay, we can send rescue to you, and I can send the fire department to you if you're in North Bennington, but you'd have to go through, sorry, that doesn't make sense. Anyway, but you know what I mean, right? Sorry, I'm a terrible public speaker, I apologize.
Doing great.
I think it's important. I think what Kim's trying to tell you is we actually do get a lot of calls from people that reside in Powell, and they say, but no, I have a Bennington address, and that's not how it works. And sometimes you have to ask people, where you go and you pay your taxes. If you're paying your taxes in Powell, then you're a Powell resident, right? Or if you're paying your taxes in Shasberry, you're a Shasberry resident, you're not a North Bennington resident. Where some confusion comes into play at times is our communication specialist will take calls from a 911 call taker. The information will get sent to us because we also dispatch for Pownell Fire, Pownell Rescue, North Bennington Fire, and Bennington Rural, Bennington. We have the capabilities of dispatching for the Shasberry Fire Department as well, if need be. And so at times we get information and we have to send, the state police might be on their way to Pownell, but we're getting the call also because they might need rescue. In today's day and age where there's a lot of mutual aid happening with rescue squads between Powell and Bennington and Cambridge, and Bennington goes down to Petersburg at times and other locations. You know, we have a direct link, and I'm proud of this, we have a direct link with Rensselaer County. They call us, instead of having to call us on the phone, they can call us direct for fire and rescue. And that cuts down on a lot of time, saves a lot of time. But it's just one more thing that our communication specialists have to monitor, right? They call all the time. You know, I'll be in my office, I can hear these calls come in. Bennington, do you have ALS, Advanced Life Support, from Bennington Rescue that can come over to Petersburg? And sometimes we have that available, sometimes we don't. And so, I mean, there's just a lot. And when Kim stands here and tells you, she does get a little bit frazzled because, listen, it's busy. It's busy in the Bennington Communications Center. You know, when we talk about the police having 13 to 14,000 calls probably this year for service, that's just the police side of things, right? We got traffic stops going on. We got officers asking for information. We've got rescue squad calls going on. You know, we've got fire calls going on. And, you know, it's things like that, you know, sometimes they're extremely busy. And that's what Kim's trying to relay to you and to our folks here and to our folks at home. And when the banner watches this video and decides that they're going to write a story, is no one is being short with you. That's the biggest complaint that I get as the police chief about our communication staff is, oh, they were short, they didn't want to listen to my story. Well, sometimes they don't have time to listen to the story because they want to get law enforcement en route or they want to get fire en route. And the next thing you know, another call's coming in. Today, we had a 4-car accident caused by someone attempting to get their driver's license, and it didn't go well. But we had a 4-car accident. Multiple people called in on that, and we had to say, oh, this is the location? Yes, thank you, we have that information. Because the other lines are lighting up. It's not that we don't want to talk to you. We just need to get off the phone so that we can get police, fire, and rescue going. And then today we also had a rollover crash at the 279-7 exchange. Yes, in Hoosick, but the Bennington Police and Bennington Rescue can get there quicker than anybody else. And it's just an agreement we have. We love the New York State Police. We love working with them. But we can get there a lot quicker, hold their scene, make sure that people are safe. And it was a rollover. You know, but these guys keep everything under control for us. They've always got the information that we need. They'll give the information to the caller that they need when time permits. And that's something that people have to understand. We have people that call and they want to tell you their whole life story and why they're depressed and things like that. And we have crisis for that. We have other things. Our dispatchers can't stay on the phone, or our communication specialists rather, can't stay on the phone with you for 30 minutes. And sometimes people get upset about that. And that was something that Kimberly and I talked about that we wanted to relay to you, especially being part of the Community Policing Advisory Review Board, that if people do come to you and say, hey, the communication specialist was really short with me and didn't want to listen, there's reasons for that at times. Some of my people are great. Sometimes I get frustrated because I stay on the phone so long, you know, listening to people's issues. And it's not that we don't want to help, but the other lines are ringing. You know, so, and I think that's important. I mean, there are people, as Kimberly mentioned and I've mentioned, that think that because they have that Bennington address, the Bennington police are automatically going to come. We'll give information or advice to anybody that calls, but, you know, we're not necessarily going to investigate your issues when you don't reside in Bennington or Bennington or North Bennington. So that's just important. So. Kim did mention the new phones to you. I know that she's going to half smile. It is great technology. You get a voicemail now, it goes right to your email. No excuse why you're not calling people back, because it goes to your email. And that's good and bad, but at the same time, because the transcription is not always correct. But it's good and bad, and these guys have had to learn a whole new phone system. And we're still getting used to our computer system. And a lot of things have changed at the police department. Our technology is amazing right now. And You know, we're very proud of that. You know, the select board is responsible, and we have an IT person that's been very helpful to us. It's taken some of the work off of my plate, Lieutenant Randy's plate, and you know, it's just we're really where we need to be, but it's a lot in a little bit of time. So when we got these new phones, people were like, oh, you know, it was just one more thing, but it's where we need to be. So, and we're appreciative of that. So, sorry.
Thank you. Kim, when you're at your desk, how many monitors do you have?
We have three. So 2 for the computer systems that we use for, so I have one screen's open for my Open Fox, the other's open for Valcor, and then the third one is for us to dispatch police, fire, rescue. So we have that one.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to realize that in addition to all of the phones coming in and everything and people coming into the lobby, there's multiple different computer systems that they're running at the same time. So it is, it's quite an impressive system, I'll say, and you guys, you ladies and gentlemen do a fantastic job with it, so thank you.
Thank you.
It's not, I'll interject just one more time. It's not just those 3 screens with the communication specialists. They've got the big monitors up on the wall. Some of you have been in the communication center. They've got the big monitors up on the wall so they can monitor what's going on in our building, what's going on outside our building, what's going on across the street at the town office. And, you know, it's a lot to do all of this and then watch those monitors at the same time. They're also responsible for monitoring the people in our holding area. So it's a lot. It's not just 3. Kim's being kind. It's not just 3. They've got 3 in front of them, and then the big monitors are up on the wall. And it's just like a big security outfit because we're watching everything that's going on. Soon to add a fourth screen that's going to be going up on the wall probably by the end of July to monitor our new facility. So it's a lot.
With multiple notifications coming in as far as your tones, and because that was one thing I remember, there was like all these different alerts, and you knew exactly which one was which, and I was just like, oh my God, it's just all this different sounds.
Yes, we have
so it's a lot.
We have a different ringtone for the 911 calls that come in. We have a different ringtone for anyone that calls the main line. But yes, we're also monitoring like other agencies, so we can hear Vermont State Police, we can hear the Sheriff's Department radio, we can hear the town highway and the water department, we can hear all their radios and we communicate with them through that. We're listening to Rensselaer County, we're listening to Washington County. So we can, sometimes Berkshire will bleed through and we can hear them. So we're listening to a whole bunch of different agencies and, you know, making sure that we're paying attention to which ones are ours and which ones we have to like answer to. So yeah, it's definitely a lot going on.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of
It's a lot.
multitasking.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I think the answer is yes, but I just wanted to ask, do you have to do other things like record keeping and maintain files or folders or other things as well that make it
Yes.
difficult, or is that?
Yes, so we hold files for any restraining orders or stalking orders that come in.
Yeah.
So we have to enter them into the system, but then we also have to hold them and keep updating them if they are extended or they become, they're temporary and they come to final. So we have all of those. So we have filing cabinets that we have to monitor with those. Our warrants we have, which is now on the computer, so it's a little bit easier, so we don't have the paper file, but we have to monitor those, and we get emails notifying us that there's, you know, a warrant that needs to be entered in, or a warrant needs to be taken out, or, so yes, we do that as well.
It's not all automated. It's not automated. You have to do that.
Right.
Manually.
The court will email us any warrants or restraining orders that come in, and then we have to print it out
Yeah.
and then enter it into the system, and then we keep a file of it, of the restraining orders and stalking orders and filing drawers behind us. So.
I was just thinking, you know, you were talking about how many calls you have per year, and is that holding steady, or is it increasing year over year?
I think it's increasing,
Okay.
honestly.
So, do you foresee a situation where you would outgrow your current communication center to where you'd need 3 people at a time? Or would you then maybe split up some of those other tasks into an individual role so that, I don't know how that would work, and I guess for the future.
So we have recently discussed the opportunity. We have a third phone, but we don't have a third computer terminal. We only have 2. There are times when, see, the dispatchers are letting you know right now what's going on with the fire business. So one of the interesting things is we have started talking about that, because there are times when it would be nice to have a third person on, especially when we're out doing highway safety campaigns and things like that, when officers are constantly conducting traffic stops. You might have 3 or 4 officers conducting traffic stops, adding to the workload of 2 communication specialists that are already very busy. So we have considered that, just not sure how that would work. And I think you're probably going to see something on that in fiscal year 2026, which we'll present to the board, in January of fiscal year 2025. It would be nice to add that third, we call it a seat.
And you
add that third seat.
You have room for that where you're at now?
I do have room for that.
Okay.
I do have room for that. I mean, then the communication specialists would have their back to the other communication specialists.
Yeah.
But I think that we can make that happen. The console that we currently have at the police department has been in place for about 22 years or so. Sandra Hamilton picked that up. It's this peachy orange color, and it's a real turn-off when you go in there. You guys have seen it. And the drawers are starting to fail and stuff. So that's a priority for us.
Update it. Yeah.
An upgrade in that, and possibly adding that third seat, which I think would be important. Once again, Kim, I don't know if it's because I'm here, but I'll tell you straight out, the state of Vermont requires a lot from the Bennington Police Department. We, as Kim said, we hold all of the relief from abuse orders, we hold extreme protection orders, we hold stalking orders from the state. Other agencies call us looking for that information, and it's a lot of work. What she didn't tell you was there's an audit that happens every month, and our communication specialists, in addition to answering the phone and doing all the other things that she's talked to you about, we do these audits monthly on all of these state documents. And there is 0 compensation from the state of Vermont, and this is not to be critical on the state. If I didn't want to do it, I would tell them that. But I think as the biggest and best agency in Bennington County, we can hold those, and we can make that happen, because we are 24/7, unlike some others.
Just the county, not the state?
I only hold them for the county.
Okay.
So there's a lot of work to that. Kim mentioned to you about the restraining orders. I mean, sometimes they get dismissed, so then we have to take them out. We have to make sure they're taken out. At the same time, they get modified. Some of the stipulations get modified, so then we have to refile that. Because if I stop, I'll just use you, Scott, because you're closest to me. If Scott Richmond gets stopped on a traffic stop, information comes up that Scott Richmond is the defendant in a relief from abuse order, and it tells us who we should be looking for that might be with Scott. And so there's a lot, and the communications people have to relay that information to us. They have to know all the DMV codes. Scott's never had a relief from abuse order. I just want to make sure everybody knows that I'm aware of. And but it's just little things like that. There's just so much that goes on. It's not, and everything's done by computer. In the old days when I started, we had a punch machine. You picked up the paper and you went doink doink, and you punched it, and it put times on there. Now everything is done by computer, and it's so much better, but you have to learn the system. Before, you just took the call and you wrote everything down by hand, and if it wasn't right, you went back and fixed it later. We don't do that. You got to have the information. That's right. So my communication staff is amazing. They do an amazing job. We're not perfect by any means, but they do work hard, and they do their best to serve this community. So I'm proud of all of them. We're, as Kim said, we're up to full staff as far as full-time people go, and it won't be long before our new communication specialist is running solo, and it's going to really alleviate some of the, most all of the overtime actually in communications. And we're going to look for part-time help that can come in, fill in on holidays, weekends, or vacation time and things like that. So we're really tracking, and a little bit of additional equipment in the next fiscal year probably would be helpful. So.
How long does it take someone to get up to speed to be on the for what has to be done? I know we've got somebody that you just said you came over from Rensselaer, so I would think that person would be a little bit of ahead on the learning curve because they already know some of the basics. It's just the specifics, but somebody brand new.
You know, with all the information that they have to learn now, it's probably about 3 months before they're ready to go. And if they're a little bit slower, it's no different than the field training officer program for law enforcement. We monitor what's going on with their communication specialists, and they have to meet certain criteria before we let them move on their own. So some people it takes a little bit longer, but there's a training program. So.
Anything else?
I do. I'm thinking about safety. And you mentioned who, what, where. So if somebody calls into you, an adult, how do you want them to give you that information? Do you want them to just spit it all out? Or is that a question you say, who are you, where are you?
So when we answer the phone, if you're calling on the main line, we'll answer at Bennington Police Department, and then generally whatever dispatcher, whatever our last name is. So for me, it'd be Dispatcher Krozik. And then generally, if you just, give us your name, tell us what's going on, like in a fight with my boyfriend, I'm here, this is the address of where we are, it's not, whether it's physical or not, whether there's weapons involved, and then that way we can at least start getting the officers there, and then we can collect more information. So definitely your name, what's going on in your location is very, very important, and then we can just gather the rest of the information from there once we get somebody going that way.
Thank you. The second part of my question is the trails up at the old SBC. They're so beautiful. I make use of them on a regular basis. I've also hiked on the Appalachian Trail. How do you find, I'm at that age where I trip on things that, right? So I fall down and I'm hurt. How do you find me?
Well, when you call, so generally someone would call 911. So they can get a general location of where you're located. Sometimes there's like an app, or you can even go on YouTube and do like a siren or some sort of like alert tone, so that people can find you. I think was it last year that we had somebody that was up on the caves, in the caves, and the lady was smart, used her phone and had like a siren going off, so that rescue and fire department and the police could, judging by that sound, were able to locate her. But you could also, the 911 operator has a general location, but that's like a broad area that it's giving you. So knowing where you are, it sounds crazy, but you're on the trails, and if you're like walking and you think, oh, okay, the Halloween tree, you're familiar with that? Okay. So you know that that's let's say, what is that? Yellow line? So if you know that, like, I'm on the yellow line, I'm near the Halloween tree, like little, what do you want to call them? What are they? Landmarks, thank you, sorry. Landmarks, that way we know. There's also, we can go on to the BATS trails and navigate through there, but definitely, like, if you're going through the trails, knowing you're 100 yards from this place, just make sure that you're aware of your surroundings, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Definitely helpful. Yes, yeah, like, we can also ping your phone if it's like a major emergency or something's going on. Lost hiker, we can ping that, have that phone pinged, which will give us updates as to where your location is.
Any other questions?
Nice job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and everything that you all do.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, thank you, Jonah. Next up on the agenda is committee reorganization. So, just a little bit of background on this. When we were originally set up and started back in October of 2022, there were different members on the board, and we thought about different ways to organize, and we had thought that maybe 3 committees would help: outreach, research, and communications. But at our last meeting, we took a look at things and said, well, maybe that's not the best way to set up stuff. So, and maybe it would be better, instead of like outreach and communications and research, to maybe be project-based, based on whatever tasks or things that the board was concentrating on. So Kate put together some practices for us to discuss, and she and I did go through it and tweak some of it. But looking for input from the rest of the board, and also going to ask, in a couple of minutes, ask the chief to come up to find out his impressions of with us, what's been working, what hasn't. We meet once a month for our standard meeting, and typically, this month we didn't, but typically a week and a half or so beforehand, I'll meet with the chief, and sometimes Lieutenant Grandy, and sometimes Will had gone with me as vice chair, and the last couple of months Kate's gone. And we try just to talk about different things on the police department's agenda, but different things that we have going on, and so is that helpful? Is it not? What do other members of the board think? What should we start to concentrate on? So I'm going to turn it over to Kate just to explain the handout. And this was posted online in the packet.
As you can see from the note on this was actually something I Googled and got some best practices. There was a best practices framework. We're a public board, and so the content that's on the internet is mostly for nonprofits or for-profits. And we don't have hiring, firing. We don't want that. We're not a legal body in the sense that we're not going to do subpoenas or anything like that. And what I realized in looking at the goals and activities that were set up, that the select board approved, is nowhere in there does it really talk about community policing. And community policing is an expensive way, let's put it that way, of doing policing. It's much more expensive than traditional policing because you have to engage the community. And so there's lots of activities that are part of community policing that are not part of traditional policing. And so I tried to envision what our role was in that process. And we can't force anybody to give us information, to give us data. That's the bottom line on that one. Besides the fact that none of us are trained, including myself, are trained statisticians. So trying to get that data from the state or from around the country, we have no authority to do that. And I don't really want that authority to begin with, because I didn't sign up for this piece to just sit behind a computer and crank numbers out, okay? And so what I did with this is I started at the very beginning with, because if we're not going to have committees, then we got to figure out how we're going to participate with each other. What's our responsibility to each other? And so, and I don't want to read this to everybody unless you want me to. Do you want me to read it? What's your sense?
Well, it might be helpful just to talk about the different highlights of it.
Sure, okay. So the first item on this is agreement on terms of member engagement. And the fact, okay, so bottom line is we adhere to public meeting law, established policies and protocols, including communication with town officers. We have a willingness to participate in the tasks, projects, and activities that we identify. That's pretty straightforward. And we're responsive to the chair requests for either information or will we participate in something, but we respond to the chair. So that's real straightforward, just in terms of our professional responsibility and being on the board. The second one is a yearly review of CPARB goals and activities. I think that's important to make sure that they're still relevant. So we stay up to date, and it's a simple activity in terms of just looking at those activities and goals. So I don't know if anybody has any comment on that, but it seemed like a real straightforward thing to do, just to take a look at those and make sure that they are, that we agree that they are still relevant to what our purpose is, if you will. The third one is intended impact. We're a board that's supposed to be very active in the community. We are, in a sense, we represent the community. We're the go-between the police department and the community. And so it becomes important then that we, in a sense, represent those principles of community policing as much as one possibly can and not be a police officer, right? So the yearly goals of CPARB are consistent with our board charge and priorities of the select board. I would argue that the select board is the one that gave us this authority, if we will, or this charge. And so we have to, in a sense, respond to what they want us to do, okay? Members know what the select board values. Where are their priorities, right? Identify and agree on tasks, projects, and/or activities that further the goals consistent with the principles of community policing. What I found fascinating, and I just because I'm new, and so learning the history of how this board came to be, is that the principles of community policing are not in the goals or the activities. They're not explicit, which I found curious. But we'll leave it there. And then actively engage members of the community and the Bennington Police Department. I lived very close to the Buffalo Police Department, so they were also a BPD, to achieve goals whenever appropriate. Apologize for that. Any questions about any of that? Any thoughts? No? Okay. So yearly review of CPARB structure and practices. So in that sense, it's just a reflective exercise of, so what do we do and is it working for us? And is the structure working for us? This past year, we didn't have a vice chair. This coming year, we're going to have a vice chair. So that changes the structure of it. The last year, or maybe 2 years.
We had vice chair, it's just that Will did.
Both.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Could I just ask, what does a vice chair do?
Well, that's part of what we want to talk about, right? I mean, we've never explicitly defined what the duties are of any of our officers, not that I could find.
The vice chair will typically assist me with when we do the agendas. If by chance the chair isn't here, the vice chair will also run the meeting. And just participate.
Yeah. Some of them are self-evident. There may be other things that are not self-evident. Mm-hmm. Just as an aside. Okay, and then we want to actively engage okay, I'm going to go to the fourth one, which is the yearly review of our structure and practices, so we clearly articulate the duties and responsibilities. That's somewhere where we can just, this is what we do. Sorry. Clearly articulate planning is consistent with board charge and the principles of community policing. Okay. And then finally, there's a yearly assessment of activities and goal achievement, and that annual summary is presented to Select Board consistent with CPARB charge. That is in our charge. we're supposed to give them a yearly report. I don't know that there was ever a yearly, this started in
October.
April?
October.
October.
Yeah, October.
So October, we have a yearly report? Okay, all right. So that's the thing. I don't know, I mean, I, again, Googled about the principles of community policing, and, because I thought that that would maybe direct some of the work that we want to do this coming year, but also how we reflect on what we've done. So I'm just gonna, what I found was that there were 7 unique things. One is to encourage community engagement. There's a decentralization of command with consistent supervision. If you think about sort of all the training that the chief and the lieutenant have been doing, there's a level of, I'm not going to call it autonomy or even independence, but that an officer can act in a way that represents the community. I'll give you an example that we had in our listening session, through the listening session. There had been, and I don't even know where this was at, there had been a serious event in some neighborhood, and after that event was taken care of, the officers on site played basketball with the kids. Okay, that's community policing. That says, okay, I don't have to punch a clock anywhere. I can engage this community, I can create relationship, and I have, if we want to call it authority, we can, but the right to do that. In fact, the responsibility to do that, because that's part of community policing. The third one is collaboration with community partners that is systematic and interactive. I think about the very strategic relationships the police department has developed with various human service organizations, okay? For the recovery coaches and all those kinds of folks that you're working with, the relationship that you have with the rescue squad, all those things. But that's not specific to our charge. But we need to look at that. That's an important element, and we need to be able to report on the effectiveness of that to make sure that you have the resources, I'm looking at the chief, that you have the resources you need to continue that, because that's an expense, that's expensive, both in time and effort. Orientation of patrol activities that emphasize non-emergency services. So that's like that thing I just mentioned, but also just being present and talking to folks, that kind of stuff. We set realistic expectations, is like the change in the 12-hour days rather than the 8-hour shifts, because it works better for your officers. Increased accountability to local community. I don't know that we have a measure for that, but we ought to. We ought to be able to say, this is how you're accountable, and this is what you do. And it's more than just this, it's more than just showing up for events. I mean, I know it, I just don't know how we measure it, that you're accountable. And then the focus is on crime prevention, which I think you're doing all the time as you walk around. So anyway, thoughts on this?
A number of these items are annually or yearly.
Yeah.
Would they be staggered, or would they be, how would that work timing-wise?
I didn't even go there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an important conversation, so they all don't land in October.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's a lot if it were to all be at the same time.
And maybe at the beginning of each year, we take a look at our charge and say, okay, what is it about that maybe needs to be tweaked, changed?
Well, the charge is the charge, right?
But that doesn't mean that we can't go to the
Yeah.
to the select board.
Yeah, sure.
This is,
There's no way we're going to do this.
Yeah.
This is setup. And you've set us up for failure, because there's no way that we can go to the state or across the country and get this information. They're not going to give it to us. We have no authority to do that. And who at the town, I'm looking at Joe now, who at the town has got the time to do that? And yet that's part of the charge. That's in the charge. And I'm thinking, boy, I don't want to do that. Who's got time for that? Besides the fact that they're going to say, I'm sorry, ma'am, you know, we don't for you. Who are you? And why should we give it to you? Right? So, I mean, even if we were to contact the 200 or so organizations that supposedly have community policing, that would be wonderful to have. But probably just collecting that list is unbelievably labor intensive.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we have to focus on is community policing. I've been involved in community policing since day one on this job. You know, whether it was getting the bicycle patrol unit going, the bicycle rodeos and things like that. And, you know, that's great, but some of the departments that have a lot of community policing efforts have officers assigned to a community policing unit. No different than a motorcycle unit or a traffic enforcement unit, and that's what they do. They go out and do nothing but community policing. And right now, we're just not set up for that. You know, we're really focused on policing efforts. We have excellent, you touched on this, we have excellent relationships with community partners. You know, we're heavily involved, I feel, in Project Alliance, and some of you attend those meetings already, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in addition to everything else that we have going on, and trying to keep up with the demands of residents of Bennington is tough enough as it is. There's a lot of people that, you know, looked at, for example, Coffee with a Cop. They thought that was great. We don't even hear about Coffee with a Cop anymore. It fiddled out, right? It was great at the beginning. A few people showed up. You know, we did a couple of events, and then it got to the point where I had more officers at Coffee with a Cop than community members that were showing up. And I think, Kate, and the rest of you, I think that part of that is, you said it a few times, who has time for that when we're tasked with so many other things? I think we have to look at the big picture. Most recently, I'll give you an example. Most recently, we had some vandalism on Main Street. The antique store got broken into. There was some frustration with certain people in the community about, you know, what's going on. The police aren't putting out any information. No, because we were building a case, right? And we made an arrest, and it's a solid case. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind this person's guilty 100%. And, you know, we made that arrest, and hopefully there'll be consequences for that. But, you know, we go out and we do the best that we can, but you have to build a case. You can't call the lieutenant, you can't call the chief and ask for information, because we're not going to give it to you, because we're building a case. Because if I share information, I'll go to the other end now, Scott. If I share information with the other Scott, and then Scott turns around and shares it with Vicky after I say, hey, I'm going to tell you this, but don't say anything. Next thing you know, it's all the way down to the other end of the table here, and now people know what we're working on and the information that we have, and then things disappear, or people get rid of evidence, or what have you. So, you know, people have to think about those things as well. It's not like what you see on TV. You know, we're very dedicated to what we do here, and when somebody sends a tip through our website and it says, there's drug dealing going on Gage Street, do something about it. You lazy slugs, I pay taxes. Okay, well, that's number one, not the way to do it. But number two, those are some of the messages that we do get, and it's not as simple as just taking the information that some anonymous person put through our website, right? There has to be an investigation. We do things old school. That's why our cases stick.
right? We're not doing things without putting investigation into it. The investigation into the burglary, for example, on Main Street was very successful. And it takes time to build a case. And we would like to go out and educate people about, why they need to have an alarm system in their business, why people need to have cameras. We live in a world today with technology. So these are just little examples that I'm giving to you. We can't put in the police department budget, like the state of Vermont gives the fire department, or they used to, gives the fire department X number of smoke detectors a year, right? Because if your smoke detector fails, they want to give you a new one and they want to help you with that. Most recently, I had a person call me because my officers suggested that this person get Ring doorbell cameras and a camera inside of her residence. And then she called the police department and wanted us to come and install those. It doesn't work that way. And I'm not picking on anybody. That's not the point of this. Is we give you the information, then you have to take some type of action. And but that doesn't include the police department coming and setting up your smoke detectors, your camera systems, just like the fire department doesn't go in and install a complete smoke detector system in someone's home. Those are things to think about. As far as your ideas about community policing and making sure that we have the funding that we need, the select board, I think, and the taxpayers in this community, I think, are very supportive of the police department. But maybe it is time to look into some other types of community policing efforts and putting those up on the table. Instead of asking the officers to volunteer all the time or our communication specialists to volunteer all the time, maybe there's some other type of compensation that could be provided. Because really, you all have been around long enough. Scott, you're new. But it really is, it's the same staff doing things over and over and over again. And volunteer is a great word, and there's a lot of people that volunteer. We're currently building our animal shelter. Sorry for the black paint, but that's what we're doing. We're volunteering our time. I had 2 detectives putting a roof on the building today, along with the buildings and grounds folks. And but that's what we do because we want our programs to be successful. So we're giving up our time to make that happen. And I think that not always are members of the police department and other town staff members recognized for all they do. Sometimes people are super critical. Your community listening sessions, I've been very thankful for that. Listen, not everything was perfect, right? That information was shared with us. Emails go out. We share information with our supervisors. Those are things that we need because sometimes people don't want to come to the police. They don't want to come to the police chief and be super critical. And I respect that. So by you guys going out and doing those listening sessions, we learn some positive things. We learn some things that we need to work on. And those are the things that I thoroughly enjoy about the Community Policing Advisory Review Board. I love the fact that you come out to some of our events and are present for some of our events because it shows that you too are engaged in the community, but you also get that opportunity to see how the officers interact with members of the community. And so what you're doing now, I think is excellent, but there's always room for improvement on the police side, on the CPARB side, and Jonah works really hard. I'm going to use it just because he's here. Jonah tries to put together a community survey every 2 years, right? Give or take. And some of the comments that come in on that survey are fantastic. Others are negative. I don't always place a whole lot of faith in the community survey because there's no geofence. We don't know where some of the comments are coming from. And, if you get a traffic ticket for doing 85 in the 55, you can tell all your friends to bash the Bennington police. If your car burns up on the side of the road, you can tell everybody to bash the fire department. It just, anonymous surveys are okay, but they're not great. They don't give us all the information. But when you do listening sessions, people have that opportunity to come out and talk to all of you when the police aren't present. We were invited to some of these locations by people that were hosting, But we didn't come because we wanted people to be able to express themselves. The select board has public comment. You all have public comment. So what do I think you should work on? Because I read this packet. I think we need to find a way to get other people here at these meetings. There's over 50 chairs set up here. We're lucky to have 2 or 3 people on Thursday nights. And it hurts my feelings a little bit because we work really hard at the police department, and all of you are trying to enhance community policing. But we need other people to come and put their input in at these meetings. We have other avenues. You can submit information through a website. Not a lot of people do that. And I think that, getting people out and to meet with the police, like events like National Night Out that we only do once a year, as an example. Bennington Battle Day Parade. I've been doing this for 34 and a half years. We've never marched as a police department in the Bennington Battle Day Parade because we have to direct traffic, right? Wouldn't it be nice? It'll never happen. But wouldn't it be nice to just have the community be able to come out and meet with the officers and things like that on Battle Day? Everybody loves the fire departments, and I think a lot of people love the police too. They get to march down the street and people clap for them. Meanwhile, the officers are out on a 85 to 90 degree day directing traffic, so that can happen, right? So I think, sometimes maybe, I think personally that we should have other types of community events. We used to, years ago, Public Works would come out. You could meet all the people that work at the town office, and we would have a cookout. I think we did that once or twice in the 34 plus years that I've been here. And that's what it takes. You should be able to meet the employees that work for the town. You should be able to meet the employees that work for Bennington Rescue, although a separate entity, right? So I have a lot of ideas, but they cost money, right? And we have to find a way to get the community more involved in not just the police side of things or the fire side of things or the rescue side of things. Our public works folks do a tremendous job, except when it snows and they put snow in the bottom of your driveway. People get angry about that. But there's no other place to put it, right? But that's what I'm saying. If you had that opportunity to meet the entire town staff and be able to talk to people openly, I think that the entire town staff would benefit from that, which includes the police department. It shouldn't just be an open house because we have a new fire facility or an open house because we have a new police department. Everybody got super excited about Stark. A lot of positive comments about Stark. And like I said earlier, people, where's Stark? Stark's at training. We already talked about that. But when Stark graduates from training, it'll be a big deal. But just like Gracie, everybody knows Gracie. Everybody loves Gracie. Really, a lot of people don't know Rob. And a lot of people aren't going to know Jim, but the officers accept that, and that's just another form of community policing. A second canine unit to accomplish the things that need to be accomplished to keep our community safe, and it's a great PR, great events for PR to come and meet the dogs. And, so those, I think we need to do more things like that. In our community, and not just because it's time to go back to school or what have you. So those are things that we all could work on as a group. Kelly had mentioned earlier, I'll just do one more. Kelly had mentioned earlier, because Scott, you asked the question, what does the vice chair do? Well, the vice chair plays an important role, in my opinion. The vice chair normally comes with Kelly to meet with Lieutenant Randy and I to talk about things that we would like to present at the Community Policing Advisory Review Board, and they have input. So it's not just Kelly. Kelly is in charge of this board, and again for another year coming up, but you have a vice chair that can also have input. You have a whole committee that can have input, and there are times that Kelly's not going to be available, and Kate's going to run the meetings, but you can also go to Kate with an issue if you can't get a hold of Kelly. There's major responsibilities here, and now the secretary plays an important role too because you're keeping copious notes. So those are things to really think about. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility in this room right now. And we're leaving out Lindsay only because she's not well tonight and she wasn't able to make it. But you all have a tremendous amount of responsibility. I have a tremendous amount of responsibility. You only get to see me on the police side, right? I have other responsibilities. And so that's why I wanted to throw out all aspects of town government, because I think that people should come out and meet all of us. We had a block party one time over on Pleasant Street. We had an open house here. We had an open house at the police facility. Those are things that we need to get back to as a community and engage more people. I think public engagement's important. I'll answer anybody's questions.
I'd like to just make a comment. We talk all about community policing and what the police can do for the community. I think it should be a two-way street. What can the community do for the police? For example, maybe have like a free dinner for a police officer every night downtown. They want police to patrol down there. Why don't they have during their dinner hour, they sit at a restaurant or outside at a restaurant, and then they're there in front of the community, they're getting a free meal. So now it's like the community supporting the police department, not just...
Yeah, I understand where you're going with that, and I appreciate it. We have to be careful and not go against our policies about, accepting gratuities and things like that. But I think that there are certain times of the year, for example, that the community really does support the police department. I mean, around the holidays, Scott, there's all sorts of food that comes in, to the police department. That's just one example. There is, we call it Police Week, Law Enforcement Week. In the month of May, things come in. There is support, for the police department, and we appreciate all of that. But really, when you look at the big picture, we took these positions as law enforcement officers to give back to the community. We are compensated for that. We do have good benefits, and I think that's part of that. We have to think about that part as well. But it would be nice, that for the community to come together and recognize everybody. I mean, not because Scott and Jeff are here, but and I'm not trying to divert attention, but the fire department in this community does an amazing job also. And maybe someday down the road we have a public safety event where we recognize police, fire, and rescue, and people can come and we could have it right here in the back parking lot as an example. And like you said, maybe the community could come out and do a little bit of cooking for the people that are involved in that are first responders or whatever, and we could just have an event here. So I like the idea, but I don't want to get into too many specifics, but I think I like your idea, but I think it should benefit everyone that's involved, and not just the police, because we couldn't do our job sometimes without the fire department, and we definitely can't do our jobs without the rescue squad support. I mean, they come out and support us in all different kinds of operations, and but we have to share that limelight and make sure that everyone's recognized. So I like your idea. We have to involve everybody.
And I just want to add a couple of things. On the survey, this was done this past year. One of our questions, because Joan and we were able to get a couple of questions on it, was what can the community do to help the police? So we got some responses on that, and I'll send you a copy of the survey and all of that. And the other thing, just to comment, when I've asked the officers, what do you need from the community? What can the community do? The most common answer that I get from them is communicate. Tell us. When you see something, say something. And that's been a consistent that I've gotten from a few of them. But, just keep communicating and passing that along.
Our community cannot be safe without assistance from community members. We can't be everywhere. The community is our eyes and our ears. And, this isn't something I read in a book. I'm telling you, with all my years of experience, we can't accomplish the things that we accomplish without the community support and the community letting us know what they see. And that really is what is most important right now. And I mean, we had a terrible year, 21, 22. We've come out of that. We're not seeing the violent drug crimes that we were, and I hope that our community never goes back to that again, because it's a scary time. This whole country is rattled right now, and I'm not a big politics guy, but you know, recent events are scary, and I think, you know, I think that we need to prepare ourselves for the future, and we need to band together as one and not have all these different views and beliefs and try to upset one another. We need to come together as one and make positive things happen. So.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. I'm headed to Main Street. Oh, Jonah, sorry. I'm headed to Main Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonah?
Hi, I'm Jonah Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the town of Bennington. Kate, I was on my phone while we were talking, not because I wasn't paying attention, but in fact, I was frantically looking up the language on the ordinance creating the CPARB, and in part because I was the administrative assistant for the safety and equity group that developed this ordinance. And I wanted to clarify that I think that the intent of the Safety and Equity Committee was not to set you up for failure, because this was really their recommendation. Oh, of course. Yep. But I do note that some of the things you pointed out, for example, comparison of local data to other Vermont municipalities, state and national trends. I think the intent there was not to, first of all, I note that these are goals, not charges. Unless something changed, which that's what I was looking for. I'm like, did we change that to a charge from a goal at some point? But the spirit was that it was a goal, and I think part of the rationale behind that was understanding that we have problems with homelessness or problems with drugs, and to what extent is that a national issue that affects everyone? To what extent is our community different? And I think that's where they were coming from when they were talking about the usefulness of comparing local data with what's happening nationally, but not to beat up the CPARB. And in fact, I also wanted to note that the last bullet under activities is a really important one for the CPARB, because it says, undertake other activities consistent with the goals of the CPARB and this resolution as authorized by law. So basically that is a catch-all, because they understood as they were creating this that they could not know what you would know today and learn throughout the process of being the CPARB, and they wanted to leave that door open for you to be able to craft the kind of CPARB that works as you understand it, because they could not foresee what you would be learning and experience and ultimately doing. So the goals, I would hope that you don't feel beat up by it. They were aspirational in some cases, and certainly in some cases are things that you may or may not be able to do. But the purpose of the goals was just that, to give some ideas and direction, but ultimately what direction you take is really up to you. Thank you.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. I mean, one of the things that I have always been taught and have tried to teach is that goals lead to activities, right? And so when I saw these goals of comparing data, okay, in my mind that says that we should be doing something to achieve that goal. And that's why I mentioned it. I also, at the last meeting, I talked about how much in the committee work was really about analysis. And I don't see us as an analysis committee. I see us as being active in the community, collaborating with the BPD and with other community groups, like the listening sessions, right, to really gather information and then translate that information into what next steps, whether that's our strategic plan to inform that. So I appreciate you're looking at that. My concern, again, is really what the chief said, was that our police department does both traditional and community policing. Other community policing activities are maybe a unit within a department. So to try to compare what what ours does with what they're doing seems like an apples and oranges kind of issue. We're a small town with a small department who has a large area, because we're rural, a large area to really cover. There, budget issues, we've heard about trying to retain officers and how difficult that can be. So there's a lot of things in there that mix up, and I just want to make sure that we're fulfilling what we need to do as best as we can, but also then, and then I mentioned this last month, then I'll shut up, about agency, and how much agency do we really have in order to direct, to change, to say, we're not going to do that. We know that that's in this thing, but we're not going to do that because we really can't. Like, compare this data, right? So anyway, enough said. Other thoughts?
Scott, any thoughts?
So where do we go from here? Do we want to accept these practices as something to direct our activities for this coming year? What are your thoughts?
The 7 items that you listed under best practices?
Yeah.
You're saying this coming year, does that mean starting now for the next year or starting in January?
Well,
I would think starting, let me make sure, I would think starting now, because it's a new board year. It would be a
Okay.
good time to say, hey, what do we want to do? And this might not be something we can answer tonight. It may be something that we may have to come back to, like, yes, well, this is a good place to start, we'll accept this, but then as we get going along, it can always get adjusted or modified. And, I know, like, over the last 2 years, well, not quite 2 years, but, we've worked a lot on just trying to get communication going, education, different couple of agencies have come in and talking with the police department about different things going on, whether it be their staffing or some of the other programs, the K-9 program, or what we did with communications this evening. So, is that the stuff that we want to continue to do? What would people like to see? Scott?
One thing I'd like to see is maybe, how we do the training and we ride with the officers. I wonder if we could have a high school group, like they have the pre-nursing high school.
Yeah, that's probably not realistic at the time. There's a lot to being able to go and do the ride-alongs as far as, for us, for backgrounds, you have to go through the criminal justice information system. You have to go very similar to like a HIPAA thing and everything like that. But I think
But I was just thinking if there's some way.
It's one of the things to absolutely, one of the things that they had looked at last year was the, and I forgot the exact name of it, but it was going to be a 10-week class for the public to come in and do something like the Civilian Police Academy. Perhaps something like that might be something to do.
Just to
but
get the
it was all-
community involved.
It's more academic policies and everything, not hands-on, no, other than, like some maybe use of force taser training or something like that they were doing here. We've talked about that. Chief's going to be happy he left early, or had to leave early. Yeah. So with some of that stuff we can do, and we'll get into more of the do's and don'ts and cans and can'ts and stuff as you start going through your training, because there's a lot of things that are like, great, that's a really great idea to do, to be able to do, but there's things that because of current Vermont laws or statutes or even some of the policies and procedures within the police department that they can't do because of that. So, but yeah, I think, getting the youth involved is always, always important, because they're our future. And if you can get some of them involved, some of them may actually want careers in law enforcement.
Well, that was
or
my point. It'd
public
be
service.
as a way to, encourage people to go into the field. And the other point I wanted to make is, those 7 items that we talked about, I think some of them are unrealistic for a small town. Maybe we could, narrow those down to what would be most important.
Oh, you mean
The best practice.
Yeah, the 7 best, because
so the principles, those are the principles. We don't, they're just there. And so we can choose, I mean, they're really the principles of the police department, and we support them in however we do that. But those are the ones that have been accepted nationwide.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just so you have a sense of where those things come from. And it, through the research that other folks have done, have identified these as really the core principles of community policing. So, and I raise those only because there's so many that, in fact, I would argue all of them, that are part of the fabric of what our department does, of what the police department does. I don't know how we capture that in terms of sort of what we do. How do we, as I mentioned to the chief, I don't know how to measure these things, but we know that they're doing that. And we find that out through some of the listening session content that we've had. So where would you like to go with this then? Should we come back to this next time? People want to think about it a little bit more? Because it's really just to direct our activity for the year. That's the only reason. Because if we're not going to do committees and we're going to do projects, then this will help direct that activity, or at least that was my hope in putting this stuff together for us to discuss.
are those 7 points, they weren't part of our handouts, right? That's something you...
No, it's something that I...
But if you could you send that out to us just so we could take a look at that? And
We'll
then
get them in the minutes.
Yeah.
They'll be in the
Okay,
minutes,
good.
and we'll get them out.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect, good.
I think it's a great place to start. I think, it's kind of like a roadmap to, I call them business plans. That's what I do, where we do a roadmap for, what do we want to have in August? What are we looking at in September? I know in August, we're going to go and review all of the data from the listening sessions. And, I thought the listening sessions were, even though there wasn't a whole lot of large attendance, I thought it was good to get out into the different areas in the community and talk to people, even if there was only 1 or 2. There were a couple that had a few more on them. And then, maybe in other rounds, once we start doing them more often, they might, and then hopefully we can get some people to come to the meetings. But there's a lot that goes on the third Thursday of the night. We compete with a lot of other things going on in town, unfortunately. So I think that this is a good place to start. It talks about the member agreement, which is pretty straightforward. Reviewing our goals and activities. I think it is a good thing to kind of look at these, and then maybe if we need to go back to the select board and say, hey, maybe this needs to be, we'd like to give you some input on this, and then they can take that and do what they want.
Yeah, because some of it,
I think it's at least a place to start this year.
It's a starting point, and it always can be modified as we go forward. And
We
that's-
are a work in progress.
Right, and the important thing is we have a focus point right now. We start here. If next month we find, like step B in, item 3 isn't working, we amend that. But at least we have a place right now that we can start with the new board members. Everything's different, so why not try something different?
I agree. So any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion to accept the draft as is?
I'll make a motion to accept the draft as is.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the Community Policing Advisory Review Board practices as listed today, July 18th, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? So carried. So this is what we will use for a roadmap to plan out our next year. All right. Next on the agenda is upcoming agenda items. In August, we will have the data analysis from our listening sessions where we'll be going through and talking about that and seeing what the next steps, if any, on that are, where we're going to go. And that's all I have right now. I am working on trying to get some information from some people in Project Alliance to come in and do some information for us and updates on some projects that they're working on. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of them in the next couple of months. I just don't know if we'll be able to swing it for August with their schedules.
I guess I would like to ask if maybe we could think about what we'd like to do in the next year, if we want to continue the listening sessions based on the information we have, or if there's something that we want to do in addition to that, like the chief had mentioned, potentially participating or helping them with some of the things that they do. So maybe we could think about some of that. Anyway.
And also, we should probably organize some kind of a block party here, like in the parking lot, like Chief just said. Is that something that we could organize? Would that be a good project to get the community together?
I think that it's definitely worth discussing and talking about, but one of the biggest challenges that we have as a board is that we have no budget. And we are also not allowed to go out and ask for donations.
That's right.
So for us to do something like that is going to be a little bit of a stretch and something that we would need to reach out to the town on, most likely Stu Hurd, through Jean Connor, who is our new select board liaison. She couldn't be here this evening, but she is our new liaison. But I think, helping out and doing any events that we can is important. And while we're speaking of that, there is an event on August 6th, the backpack giveaway from 4 to 7 at Lower Willow. So if anybody wants to volunteer to assist with that.
That's Lower Willow?
I believe it's Lower Willow.
And what day was that?
Tuesday, August 6th, 4 to 7. It's the backpack giveaway that's been out there. And that's a great way to get in with the community and see people, because it will definitely be well attended.
I was just looking at the calendar, so because August 1st falls on a Thursday, the third Thursday is August 15th, which is Battle Day week, and I don't know if there's going to be
There's nothing going on.
nothing on Thursday.
Cornhole, but I won't be there.
Okay. But nothing that the parking lot would be
Correct.
filled up, or this room would be used?
Nope.
Okay.
Any other upcoming agenda items anyone would like to see?
I think we should discuss, the listening sessions, I wouldn't say were an utter failure, but they weren't a huge success either because we didn't get a lot of participation. Just like Chief Doucette was saying, we have 50 chairs here that are basically empty. We should start brainstorming different ways to engage the community, to get the word out, to try to get more people in this room on the third Thursday of the month, and also to attend the listening sessions. The CPARB was formed to benefit the community, and we don't really seem to be getting a lot of community input on what we're doing, what we should be doing.
Could that be a sign that they don't have input to give? Is the problem that they don't know how to give the input, or that maybe there aren't?
So with the listening sessions, we're giving them the opportunity to input, but are we putting the word out there where people are seeing it to attend the listening session? So my thought is, the listening sessions are great. I attended one this year. It wasn't a great success. That one, I did talk to a lot of people, but I was in my dress uniform for the fire department, so I talked a lot about the fire department with them. So I think we just need to really look at how we're putting the word out there. If putting it on the town website is the best place, because how many of the people that should be coming to a listening session or looking at the town website.
Well, it's
Are
on
there other
Facebook,
places?
Banner, yeah, what else
Yeah.
could you do?
Are there
I
other
don't
places
know.
where we can get the word out, other things we can do? You know, do we walk around with a sandwich board in front of Willowbrook?
You do.
But no, I'm not saying to go to that extreme, but I'm saying, you know, there's got to be a way that we can get the word out to get more people involved, because our job is really pointless if we don't have the community backing us and attending and talking to us.
I think about when we were at the community cafe, one of the things that Lorraine had said is to build trust, it's going to take more than one time to be at the community cafe. And tabling is great, but I think we need to be at the tables eating a meal with folks. That's just my 2 cents.
So I think that this is excellent conversation, and I think that when we get to next month's agenda and we do the analysis that we're talking about with the listening session, that's the perfect time to do the brainstorming.
Okay.
So. Okay. All right. Anything else on upcoming agendas? Next is announcements. The only announcement I had, I just wanted to make the backpack giveaway on August 6th. That's out, the advertisement's all out. I believe the Better Bennington Corp. And the banner, and I think the Police Association are all involved with that. It's all been advertised, so I would encourage people to attend that. And if anybody's looking to volunteer, donate, you know, or not donate, but volunteer time to help with that, let me know afterwards and I can connect you with Susan. And if there's no other announcements, welcome Scott. Scott Frost is our new member this year. That's all for tonight. So our next meeting will be August 15th, Thursday, 6 p.m. here in the firehouse. That is Battle Day weekend. So thank you to the firemen and everyone else for doing that. All right.
Make a motion,
Thank
we
you.
adjourn.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain, or no, abstains, so carried. Have a good night. Thank you.